Now, this weekend, President Cyril Ramaphosa responded directly and unapologetically to the US President Donald Trump's decision to boycott the G20 summit, which was held in South Africa, Johannesburg, this past weekend. And his message was blunt that, you know what, it's their loss. Now, Ramaphosa went further, saying that the United States needs to rethink about whether boycott politics even works. Because in his experience, it doesn't. Now, today we unpack what this means, why Trump decided to boycott the G20, and why South Africa has become the largest target of America's far-right paranoia. But more importantly, I want us to talk about what this moment says about sovereignty and power, right? And the future of Africa on the global stage. Let's get into it. Now, last Friday, Donald Trump announced that no American officials, not himself, not his State Department, not a single representative would attend the 2025 G20 summit in Johannesburg. And this is actually the first G20 summit in history that the United States refuses to attend. And the reason, well, Trump claims that the G20 should not be held in South Africa because, and I quote, white farmers are being persecuted and killed in a genocide. Now, this false claim, it has been rejected by the South African government, by the South African police statistics, by the leading Afrikaner civil society groups, and also by the United Nations. But Trump has been repeating this lie for years because it fits perfectly into the far-right American narrative that white people are under threat globally. And I believe this is the same narrative used to justify anti-immigration politics. It's the same narrative used to justify anti-Black, anti-African propaganda and the so-called Great Replacement theory, right? And we all know that Trump is not just making a diplomatic point. He is feeding red meat to his base. And South Africa, it's simply just a tool in that propaganda machine. Let's watch this video.
Why isn't Donald Trump coming tomorrow? Because he has a 4-year-old mentality, and he's having a he's having a tantrum. He's having a tantrum. What is the tantrum? That the rest of the world says, we don't want a king. As President Lula said, we don't need an emperor. He would come here as just one of 20 leaders, or 21. He doesn't want that. He's having a tantrum.
Now, on Wednesday, President Cyril Ramaphosa addressed the media outside Parliament and said that it is unfortunate that the United States decided not to attend the G20. But then he made it abundantly clear that the G20 still continued to go on. All heads of state were there, and that their absence was their loss. And he said that the US is giving up its role as the world's largest economy voluntarily, surrendering influence, And Ramaphosa also reminded us that boycotts do not work anymore. And he's right. When powerful nations refuse to sit at the table, the world simply moves on without them. China was there, India was there, Russia was there, the African Union was there, the EU was even there. So if America didn't want to show up, then that's not our crisis, if we're being honest. That's theirs. That's Trump's crisis. And we all know that Trump's attacks are not new, right? Ever since returning to the White House in January, he has been obsessed with two topics. Number one, the white genocide myth in South Africa, and also the South Africa's genocide case against Israel at the International Court of Justice. And I mean, let's talk about that actually. Let's break it down, right? Let's start with the myth of white genocide. Trump, Elon Musk, and sections of US conservative media have been pushing the narrative that white South Africans, specifically Afrikaner farmers, are being killed. And this is false. Farm murders affect all races. Most victims are Black, and there is no evidence of any racial genocide. But here's the reality. The far right in the US needs symbols to fuel their fears about a declining white population. South Africa becomes the perfect propaganda tool for that. So it's easier to use us. And let's talk about South Africa's case against Israel, right? The second reason Trump is furious is because South Africa took Israel to the ICJ over genocide in Gaza. South Africa has submitted 500 pages of evidence, testimonies, footages, forensic reports that detailed analysis of Israel's operation in Gaza. So the ICJ has already issued 3 provincial orders against Israel, all which Israel has violated. So, of course, Trump sees this as a betrayal of the US foreign policy. So, yes, South Africa is being punished for standing up for human rights in Gaza. And Trump's boycott is not about white farmers. It's quite clear that it's about persecution. It's not about the G20. This is about white supremacist insecurity. It is about a worldview that cannot tolerate a black-led government asserting itself on the world stage. And let's be real. The United States does not want African nations to be equal partners. It wants us to be junior partners. And when South Africa refuses to toe the line, when we say no to slaughter in Gaza, no to Western double standards, no to imperial arrogance, America throws a tantrum. And this is a behavioral, colonial behavior, dressed in modern clothing. When a black country steps out of its assigned place, the West suddenly becomes offended. What Trump is doing is not diplomacy, it's punishment. It's fear politics. And frankly, it is embarrassing for a global superpower to behave like this. And here's what makes this moment historic, right? Is that this G20 summit was the first ever to be held on African soil. Because for decades we've been told that Africa is unstable, that Africa's too poor, too dangerous, too not ready. Well, Africa's hosting the world now, and that makes some people very uncomfortable because it signals a shift in global influence, a shift in economic power, and a shift in moral authority. So when South Africa took Israel to court, many thought it was symbolic, but now the world sees that Africa can shape global events, and Washington, under Trump's leadership, doesn't like a world where black nations have a voice. And let me even ask this, all right? The US said that they wouldn't come. Okay. But did the G20 collapse? No. Did global trade stop? No. Were decisions made without them? Absolutely. Trump's boycott did not weaken South Africa. It weakened the US because some people carried on, Africa carried on, and the world carried on. And if America wants to isolate itself, or rather Trump wants to isolate America, that is their choice. But history shows that isolation is not leadership. Now, let's continue the conversation in the comment section. I want to hear what your thoughts on this. And while you're at it, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. That's it from me. Till we meet again, it is bye-bye for now.